Hey, what's good, self-direct investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan. I'm the mind behind Make More Capital, and today we're coming at you with a recap of this week in cannabis from April 12th to the 18th. So before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learn something, please just leave a like on it, as it really helps out my channel. And then of course, if you want to learn how to take advantage of this generational investment opportunity, make sure you subscribe below so that you don't miss any future videos, and then there's plenty of content for you to go back, rewatch, and educate yourself with so that you can take advantage. And we're going to start with some fundamentals because that is what we need to focus on. That is what's important, not the short-term day-to-day stock prices. And I'm very happy to recap that Michigan cannabis sales reached record $115 million in March, which is more than twice that of what they saw in March 2020 last year. So this comes from Seattle-based data analytics company Headset, one of my favorite resources, headset.io, if you want to check any of their point-of-sale data metrics, reports that there were 1.4 million transactions throughout the state last month, according to Detroit Metro Times. Michigan sales have been robust since the state's adult use market launched in 2019, totaling more than $500 million in the first full year of the program. Headset predicts sales in Michigan will grow significantly in April, with the likely boost from the 420 unofficial cannabis holiday. The state has 260 recreational cannabis stores and 410 medical cannabis dispensaries, according to the Detroit Metro Times as well. The publication also noted that Michigan issued new permits in 2021 for 45 recreational cannabis shops and 46 medical cannabis dispensaries. Now, the funny thing is there's a lot of room to grow in the state as the stigma of licensing cannabis businesses erodes among municipalities, and get this, of the state's 1,764 communities, fewer than 100 allow adult use cannabis sales, the Detroit Metro News added. So get that, only 100 of these communities allow sales. Just imagine when the stigma gets erased and more of those open up. Huge numbers can be expected in the future. Now, this one from Bazinga, U.S. cannabis sales to hit $28 billion in 2022, again a projection from Headset.io. Now, Headset is a provider of data and analytics to the cannabis industry, and they're releasing long-term projections for the US and Canadian markets. These figures will be updated at the end of every quarter, and the forecast for the US and Canadian markets will include all jurisdictions, regardless of legalization status, across adult use and medical markets. The information will be provided in a calendar year format. With this new approach, the company is able to provide estimates for a minimum of 5 quarters and a maximum of 8. So with that, the key highlight from the overall market view is that cannabis sales in Canada will hit $4 billion in 2021, which is notably less than the US's market estimates of $23 billion in annual sales. And according to them, the Canadian cannabis market should advance twice as fast as the US market between 2020 and 2021, and nearly 3 times faster from 2021 to 2022. But this is again because they're referring to just a smaller growth number from 2.6 to 4 as opposed to 17.5 up to 23. Just percentage-wise, it's a larger increase in Canada than in the US. And both markets, US and Canada, will experience growth throughout 2021 and 2022. You best believe that. So, Headset's category market view analyzes each country separately, relying on current legalization and regulation levels, which can be changed. And then some highlights from the market category. Flower is the most popular product category in both markets. In the US, flower comprises most of the total yearly sales, hitting $11 billion this year and estimated to reach $12 billion in 2022. And as people want to try new products, vapor pens, edibles, and concentrates took and will continue to take more market share in the US than in Canada across 2021 out until 2022. So great to see those numbers. Mind you, as much as I can, I'll report states when they put out their sales as well, as long as I can get the data. Now, cannabis banking bill will get a House floor vote next week, Majority Leader confirms, and this was the big news that we got on Friday. So Safe Banking Act will be voted on in the House. A bipartisan bill to protect banks that service state legal cannabis businesses from being penalized by federal regulators has been formally scheduled to receive a House floor vote on Monday, a calendar released by Majority Leader Steny Hoyer's office confirms. Marijuana Moment reported on the expected development earlier Friday after obtaining an email that was sent to stakeholders by the staffer for Earl Perlmutter, the bill sponsor, seeking letters of support for the Secure and Fair Enforcement Banking Act ahead of the anticipated vote. The bill is now officially, a bit of a typo there, officially listed on the Majority Leader's agenda of legislation for Monday. So we can expect some word on this tomorrow. That will be great. This will mark the first floor action on a cannabis reform bill this Congress. The standalone legislation cleared the House with bipartisan support in 2019, and its language was also included in 2 coronavirus relief packages that the chamber approved. The proposal did not advance in any form in the Senate under GOP control, however. Mind you, now with the Democrats in control of the House, Senate, and White House until at least 2022 guaranteed, industry stakeholders are optimistic that the legislation stands a solid chance of becoming law this year. The Safe Banking Act was reintroduced in the House last month, and it currently has 168 co-sponsors, more than 1/3 of the chamber. Days later, it was refiled in the Senate, where Senators Jeff Merkley, a Democrat, and Steve Daines, a Republican, are the chief sponsors. So this is great. We'll have to look out to see what happens on Monday. Hopefully it goes through the House, no problem, and into the Senate, and they can get enough votes. Now, this was an article I found yesterday, and I guess you only get one free read, but the good thing is when I prep these, I copy and paste the important stuff. So just to give you an overview of the Safe Banking Act in layman's terms, given these risks, many banks and other financial institutions do not service cannabis-related businesses. As a result, cannabis-related businesses, legal and licensed under state law, are often denied access to the banking system, unable to utilize all of the banking, checking, payroll, and accounting functions on which other businesses rely. A terrible double standard. As a result, the multi-billion-dollar cannabis industry operates largely on a cash-only basis. This has created significant public safety, tax, and regulatory issues. In this environment, businesses, employees, and customers are more susceptible to theft and other cash-motivated crimes. Tax collection and the audit process are inefficient, and the industry is much more difficult to regulate. So the Safe Banking Act aims to address these concerns and increase transparency in the industry by creating a safe harbor from criminal prosecution, liability, and asset forfeiture for financial institutions and their directors, officers, and employees who choose to provide financial services to legitimate state-sanctioned cannabis businesses. Under the bill, federal regulators would be prevented from taking any of the following actions: prohibiting, penalizing, or discouraging a financial institution from providing financial services to a legitimate state-sanctioned cannabis business or an associated business, i.e. a law firm who provides legal services to a legitimate cannabis business. Second, terminating or eliminating a financial institution's deposit or share insurance solely because the financial institution is providing service to a cannabis business or associated business. Recommending, incentivizing, and encouraging a financial institution to halt or downgrade providing any kind of banking services to these cannabis businesses, or taking any adverse or corrective action on a loan made to an owner or operator of a cannabis-related business, or who owns real estate or equipment leased to a cannabis-related business. And so the key word here, this is the Safe Banking Act document, I think is legitimate. It is legitimizing the industry. So this bill to create protections for financial institutions that provide financial services to cannabis-related legitimate businesses and service providers for such businesses and for other purposes. So this link will be below if you want to check it out and try to read it. Obviously, it's really difficult English to comprehend exactly. Nonetheless, it is down there if you want to check it out. Now, on top of that, apparently Biden's already on board with federal cannabis legalization, even if he doesn't use that word, Booker says. Senator Cory Booker says that President Joe Biden is already where he needs to be to get a bill to end federal cannabis prohibition enacted into law, even if he personally opposes legalization. Confusion about the president's position comes down to semantics, the senator indicated, so that's basically just what meaning people or media or news releases are attributing to what Biden has said in the past, or hasn't said. Booker said in a recent interview that Biden's stance in favor of decriminalization will be enough to advance the reform legislation he's working on with Senate Majority Leader Schumer and Senate Finance Committee Chairman Ron Wyden. That reason being, he said, is that what the reform proposal would accomplish at the federal level is effectively decriminalizing cannabis by removing it from the list of controlled substances, which is huge. We need that just completely removed, and letting states set their own policy, something Biden does support. I have a great partner in the president, Booker said in an interview in the podcast Hell and High Water, which was published on Wednesday. He believes in decriminalization, and as I said to him the first time we talked about this, well, my bill is no different. I think states should be allowed to do what they want, which is the whole point of having the individual states in the first place, and more power to the states as opposed to the overall federal government. So better get that bill on his desk so he can sign it, and we'll believe it when we see it, right? Now, this is great news. I wanted to point out constitutional ban on legal cannabis dies in the Idaho House. Yes! A proposed constitutional amendment that would have prevented the legalization of cannabis and other drugs without the approval of 2/3 of the Idaho legislature died in the House on Thursday. The legislation failed to attain the 2/3 majority needed for a proposed constitutional amendment and died on the 42 to 28 vote it needed 47 votes to pass. The legislation has already cleared the Senate. Had it passed the House, it would have gone to voters in 2022, needing only a simple majority. Lawmakers in the Republican-dominated House during the 2-hour debate clashed on two main themes: the help cannabis can give to those living with unending pain, and the damage that it can cause those, especially young people, who overdo its recreational use. Interesting how they don't, think about alcohol or tobacco or those effects at all. It's ultimately should be up to the person and their freedom of choice. It's ridiculous. How can Republicans stand for that sort of over-control? Anyways, the final vote saw some of the chamber's most conservative members teaming with its most liberal members to defeat the measure. None of the chamber's 12 Democratic members supported the measure. So that's great. Just the fact that Idaho wanted to prevent this completely, and that died, which is just going to show that there is support, and we are chugging along in this fight. On top of this, bipartisan bills to legalize medical cannabis for military veterans introduced in Congress. Now, honestly, this is such a shame because this should have been done 50 years ago after Vietnam, and really for anyone today to say that they support troops, but they don't support cannabis legalization for troops, are just a hypocrite. That's just a fact. I don't think you can be for one and not for the other, because if you care for them to go and fight and protect your rights that you enjoy today, and to have a house over your head and energy and access to, warmth and all of that, but then to not allow these veterans to come back and heal the trauma and what they've gone through with the best medicine they have for it is just insane. So, a bipartisan coalition of congressional lawmakers on Thursday reintroduced legislation that would federally legalize medical cannabis for military veterans. The bill is being sponsored by Reps Barbara Lee and David Joyce, yada, yada, yada. The Veterans Medical Cannabis Safe Harbor Act would temporarily allow veterans to legally possess and use cannabis under federal law, as recommended by doctors in accordance with state law. Physicians with the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs would also be allowed for the first time to issue such recommendations. Further, it would require Veterans Affairs to study the therapeutic potential of cannabis for pain and reducing opioid misuse. And this can be done once it's descheduled and decriminalized and descheduled, taken out of the Schedule 1 classification. Currently, Veterans Affairs allows its physicians to talk about cannabis use with its veterans, but they're prohibited from issuing recommendations that would allow them to obtain cannabis from state legal markets. Complete delusion. That's ridiculous. Earlier versions of the companion bill were introduced in the last two Congress, but did not advance. What a failure to the young soldiers that you sent into war zones. It's horrible. With Democrats into control of both chambers and the White House this session, however, there's renewed optimism that these types of cannabis proposals could move in 2021, especially because they kind of complement each other. Once reform is enacted and you can deschedule it, then this allows this research to go on, and just on top of that, it has been scientifically proven that medical cannabis has a considerable impact on treating conditions common with veterans when they return from service, like chronic pain and PTSD, Lee said in the press release. This legislation will empower veterans and their doctors to make better informed decisions about the use of medical cannabis to treat chronic conditions in states with legal medical cannabis programs without federal interference. Joyce says that there's a growing body of evidence about the beneficial use of cannabis for treatment of PTSD and chronic pains, two terrible conditions that plague many of our veterans. Should have been done 50 years ago, should have been done 40, should have been done 30 years ago. Anyways, glad it's being done now. And on top of that, cancer patients' attitudes of using medicinal cannabis for sleep. So there was a study, the purpose of it, poor sleep is one of the most common side effects of cancer treatment. One increasingly popular approach to manage side effects of cancer treatment is use of medical cannabis. So they studied 24 participants, and the findings: the majority reported medical cannabis use for sleep. These participants reported that medical cannabis improved sleep initiation and continuity, resulted in decreased use of sleep medications, and that improved sleep led to better health. No participants, get that, none, 0 of the 24 reported medical cannabis was ineffectual for sleep or caused undesirable side effects when used for sleep. So the conclusions: cancer patients often utilize medical cannabis to specifically manage poor sleep. There is a need for rigorous studies assessing prevalence of use for this indication in clinical trials to assess comparative efficacy and safety. And again, this will be able to be done once the reform is enacted, cannabis is decriminalized, and it's descheduled from that classification that it should have never been in the first place. Awesome. You should just study more people. Now, good news is Americans overwhelmingly say cannabis should be legal for recreational or medical use. As more states, including Virginia and New York, continue to legalize cannabis, an overwhelming share of U.S. adults, 91%, say either that either cannabis should be legal for medical and recreational use, 60%, or that it should be legal for medicinal use only, for 31%. And fewer than 1 in 10, 8% say cannabis should not be legal for use by adults. I hope this 8% is not bringing children into the world. The new survey conducted by Pew Research Centers from April 5th to 11th, 2021 come as congressional Democrats consider legalization that would decriminalize cannabis nationally. Views of cannabis legalization have changed very little since 2019, obviously since that wasn't very long ago. But get this. A separate question that asks whether the use of cannabis should be made legal without specifying for recreational or medical use has shown a steep long-term increase in support for legalization. Oh, I wonder why. From 2000 to 2019, the share of Americans saying cannabis should be legal more than doubled. Yeah, no duh, because that's accounting for the opinions of people born from 1982 to 2000. Like, of course, when you have this 2 decades of adults getting older and getting access to new information, the popular opinion of something that makes total common sense when you look at the data is going to double, which is great. We need this. We want this. And there have long been age and partisan differences in views about cannabis, and that remains the case today. Very few adults of any age are completely opposed to the legalization of cannabis. And get this, however, older adults are far less likely than young people to favor cannabis legalization for recreational use. No duh, because older people have been fed propaganda and lies for such a long time that they think that it's true. And that's why young people, obviously, who can think a bit better for themselves, are the ones that can decide that, yeah, personal freedoms is more important than believing old past lies that clearly don't stand true anymore. This is particularly the case among adults ages 75 and older. No, duh! So this is people born before 1946 that their whole life has been fed lies about this plant, and they have no idea what it's actually capable of. Just 32% say cannabis should be legal for recreational and medical use. 32% of people over 75. That's amazing. I'm impressed by that. By far the lowest share for any age category, and 21% points lower than adults in the next oldest age group, those ages 65 to 74. And those that are against it likely can't find their glasses and don't know how to work a computer, therefore they can't actually pull up the new data and educate themselves on it, so they're stuck watching Fox News and CNN and believe what they're told on TV. And that's why they're still against it. It's a no-brainer. So just happy that we are getting this information out there because it's about damn time. And just another one, 69% of Americans now support legalizing cannabis, an all-time high. Quinnipiac poll finds. So this is just another poll. National support for cannabis legalization has hit a high point, according to new poll, with 69% of Americans now saying that they favor ending prohibition. That includes a strong majority of Republicans, 62% too. In fact, there's majority support among every demographic that was included in the survey, including those 65 and older, 51%. So, you know, when 69% of your public wants this, there's no more time to be stalling. Now, just wanted to put this into perspective, everyone who's getting impatient and worrying about the day-to-day prices that we're never going to go back up. This is a great infograph. Who made this one here? Don Stryker, thank you. Right on track, because this is true. We did see a bump. It's pulling back. People are getting scared. Oh my God, this is the end of the world. No, this is just beginning. So remind yourself that it's wise to play the long game. We're in for quite a great few years ahead of us, and if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen and stop complaining about it. And on top of that, we have Todd Harrison providing some timely information from Cowen, which is one of the few U.S. investment firms that actually provides guidance. And for everyone freaking out, but it's all over, I think we've really just hit bottom. But to highlight, Cowen raises our U.S. legal cannabis total addressable market to $41 billion in 2025, driven by adding adult use sales in New Mexico and Virginia. Federal change is the clear next catalyst, giving Democrat control of Congress. We believe there's additional room for Connecticut and Rhode Island to legalize in 2021. And so some quick fair usage color on the Cowen report. This gives Columbia Care a price target of $9, a Trulieve a price target back up to $65, and TerraSend back up to $13. And these are all outperform, which means they could easily go past that. So for anyone thinking we're never going to get back to those levels, patience, young Padawans, please. And this is here if you want to pause and read it for a bit more information, but I am going to jump ahead to the next one. This is just another Cowen price target, and outperform for Cresco Labs back up to $15 American, because again, this is Cowen, which is an American US investment firm. So if you'd like to read more about Cresco Labs, pause here to do so. I'll actually exit it, and hopefully you should be able to clearly read this. Otherwise, you can go back. And a third one, Cowen initiates coverage outperform on Trulieve at a 65% price target. So pause here if you want to read that as well. More news from the MSOs. Green Thumb Industries announces launch of leading cannabis-infused social tonic brand Cann in Illinois ahead of 420 Cannabis Holiday. So they previously announced partnership to bring California's #1 selling cannabis beverages to Illinois and beyond. Cann offers a portfolio of microdose social tonics, low in calories with all natural ingredients. Cann is available at Rise dispensaries and select cannabis stores throughout Illinois. So this is great that they are bringing this into a fast-selling state like Illinois. The cannabis beverage category is expanding as adults seek alcohol alternatives, and Cann delivers a superior experience, said Green Thumb founder and Chief Executive Officer Ben Kovler. We see Cann as a substitute to seltzers, wine, and beer for new cannabis consumers looking to reduce or replace alcohol, but still want familiar social interactions of sharing a drink with friends or family. If you don't like hangovers, this is for you. Gotta love that. This is huge. So bringing that into Illinois, into new markets, should help them increase sales. On top of that, Cresco Labs announces that they've closed their acquisition of Bluma. So this makes them a stronger company with a larger footprint in Florida. So what are the transaction highlights detail? Cresco Labs now has meaningful operations in 10 states. The company's footprint includes all 7 of the top 10 most populated states in the country with cannabis programs. Florida with more than 525,000 medical cannabis patients, and this is growing like 1% a week, I'm pretty sure. And the state population greater than 21 million people represents one of the largest absolute growth opportunities among cannabis markets. Bluma Wellness's competitive advantage in Florida include one of the state's only cultivation facilities producing ultra-premium quality flower, as well as differentiated retail model, including strategic high-volume storefronts and an omni-channel sales platform. Operations include 8 dispensaries strategically located around the state offering same-day delivery and curbside pickup. 7 more dispensaries are currently in permitting and or are under construction, so that is yet to come. And 54,000 square feet of cultivation in Indiantown is currently under expansion and will continue to deliver premium craft flower at greater scale to support additional store openings and expand product offerings. So this just strengthens Cresco as a company overall. And Trulieve announces expungement program in several states as part of their 420 celebration, which is great. They have partnerships with Minority Law, Minorities for Medical Cannabis, Cultived, and Georgia Justice Project will include clinics and virtual events across Florida, Georgia, and Massachusetts. And Trulieve is doing this as a leading and top-performing cannabis company based in the U.S., announced today a series of expungement clinics located throughout South and Central Florida, as well as virtual events. These clinics are part of the company's celebration of the 50th anniversary of 420. I didn't realize Tuesday's the 50th anniversary. How amazing. Now, during the month of April, Minority Law has hosted expungement clinics and will be hosting 2 more as follows: Re-Relief Patient Application Day, April 17th, and the first annual 420 event. Now, at these clinics, an attorney will be present to review records and see if someone is eligible for a sealing or expungement of their records. As part of their events, Trulieve will be helping cover the costs for fingerprints, legal fees, and court costs. And in addition, we covered that kind of in the highlight who they're working with, but I want to highlight this. Our main mission, Trulieve's mission as a company, has always been to improve people's lives, says Trulieve CEO Kim Rivers. How many companies say that, but actually put their money where their mouth is? Not many. Trulieve is one of the few, and I'd say cannabis companies are one of the actual few, and they're changing the game with this. We've always been dedicated to improving the communities we call home. So that's great. What other sort of companies, especially when you think of tobacco, alcohol, big pharma, are in it for the people as opposed to just the profit? Seriously, think about it. And if you can't comprehend that, you really need to try some cannabis to get you out of that negativity bias and out of that fear, potentially. Now, a Freehit and TLRY cannabis merger moves a step closer to approval. Analyst has good conviction the deal will go through and create the world's second biggest cannabis company by revenue. The proposed merger of Canadian cannabis company stepped closer to approval on Friday when TLRY revised its bylaws to reduce its shareholder vote quorum. what does that mean? Essentially, the British Columbia-based company said it will now require only 1/3 of the voting power of the outstanding shares entitled to vote to approve the deal, instead of the majority of the voting power of the outstanding shares. Cantor Fitzgerald analyst Pablo Zuanic said that the change gives him good conviction that the deal will go through and create what's expected to be the world's biggest cannabis company measured by revenue. And Zuanic estimates that insiders grouped under Privateer Holdings, which is a company, an investment firm that Brendan Kennedy, the CEO of TLRY, is actually the chairman of, I believe. And that's also backed by the Founders Fund, run by Peter Thiel, one of early tech investors, a billionaire. So that's very positive to know that that's behind this new entity going forward. And institutional investors own about 25% of TLRY stock. So now with today's change, the company has to find only another roughly 8% of voters to reach the desired quorum. We think with insiders and institutional, they will have enough votes in favor to get the 2/3, he wrote in a note to clients. The analysts acknowledge that TLRY has a large day trader component to its investor base who may not care about voting, but proxy solicitors and other tools should help TLRY get the needed quorum, he said. So it seems like this is why they made this adjustment, so that they don't need necessarily as much of a larger percentage from that trader base. Now, TLRY earlier this week pushed the date of their special shareholder meeting to April 3rd from April 16th, and APHA shareholders, meanwhile, voted overwhelmingly in favor of the deal on Thursday, with a total of 99.38% of shares voting approving it, which I did as well. I voted for approval. And Zuanic said that the arbitrage gap has narrowed since February, big time. At one point, TLRY had jumped up to $75, and APHA was like in the $35 or $40 range. When APHA shares were trading at a 51% discount over the merger conversion price, but he said that he would still play the deal via APHA, which is what I'm doing, what I think anyone in their wise mind would do, because APHA is fundamentally the better company. So worst case scenario, if this were to not go through, which it likely will go through, you're going to own the better company regardless. But at the current price, APHA is only trading at a 2.2% discount over the conversion price of Canadian, I think this should be American, $13.96. And from other news from an LP, we have HEXO announcing filing of $1.2 billion worth of a preliminary base shelf prospectus. What does this mean? HEXO wants to raise more money, potentially to get into the US, it seems. We made the decision to file this new base shelf prospectus and registration statement to provide maximum flexibility as we continue to pursue strategic initiatives in both the US and Canada, said HEXO CEO and co-founder Sebastian St. Louis. We have now started to deploy capital in the US, are remaining active in M&A, and are in ongoing discussions with potential non-beverage CPG partners, which we expect will require additional capital as we continue to execute on our growth plans and expansion strategy. So they're probably referring to their partnership with Molson Coors and their rollout of some beverages in Colorado. So it seems they're waiting on federal legalization as well, hopeful that it's going to happen so that they can get in there. And so this base shelf prospectus and registration statement, when made final and effective, will enable HEXO to make offerings of up to $1.2 billion of common shares, warrants, and subscription receipts and units, or a combination thereof from time to time, separately or together in amounts, at prices, and on terms to be determined based on the market conditions at the time of the offering as set out by the accompanying prospectus supplement. So that will lead to quite a bit more dilution for any HEXO shareholders when this would be exercised, though. And I just want to point to this amazing resource that I do have in every single video in the description that I title The Ultimate MSO Resource. Again, I need to thank some human on the internet that made this. I still don't know who he is. No one has told me who this person is, and I would love to meet him one day to thank him. But this does have all of the information you need to know who are the top 10 U.S. multi-state operators in terms of market cap, and it covers Acreage Holdings, Air Strategies, Columbia Care, Cresco Labs, Cureleaf, Green Thumb Industries, Harvest Health, TerraSend, Trulieve, Verano, and Vireo Health. And I also just wanted to highlight that because of these strong sales we've seen in Michigan, a record $115.4 million in March, there does not seem to be many of the large ones in there. So it seems like in Michigan, many mom-and-pop cannabis shops are taking a majority of that share. However, Acreage has 3 dispensaries in there. Nothing for the second company, which I believe is TerraSend. Nothing for this third company. And then this fourth one, Michigan, nothing in there. Let's see, who else? Michigan, 4 dispensaries. That's Cureleaf. So Cureleaf does have 4 dispensaries in that fast-growing state. As we keep going, Michigan, nothing. Michigan, nothing. Michigan, nothing. Michigan, nothing. No dispensaries in Michigan. And, no dispensaries. Oh, wait, no, I passed one. Sorry. Okay, let's go back. This MSO has one dispensary in Michigan, and they are Verano Holdings. Nothing in Michigan. I was looking at Minnesota, and that is Vireo Last. So just wanted to highlight that this is a great resource for anyone looking for MSOs, which company might potentially be a good purchase based on their current valuation and what they're projecting in sales of 2021 or 2022. This, again, will be found below, and I just want to thank whoever made this random beauty on the internet. It's Canadian slang I love to use, and I hope he doesn't mind sharing. But again, this is all to try and help any investors out there make better investment decisions so that we can all grow together and hopefully use these profits that we make in time to give back to our communities, our families around us, and help us in time. So I want to thank you all for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like on it. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything from this past week or what you think is going to happen as we're anticipating a very big week ahead. So I will be back on Wednesday for a midweek update. If any big developments come before then, I will probably pop on. But I want to wish you all very happy early 420. Enjoy yourselves. Subscribe if you don't want to miss any future videos, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Have a great weekend, everybody.